The first time my trainer called me out, it wasn't loud or dramatic. It was worse than that. Quiet, casual, and way too accurate. "You know," Ben said, leaning against the squat rack with his arms crossed, "most guys who come in 6 days a week actually increase their weights." I froze mid-representative. I re-racked the bar, trying to play it cool, pretending my heart wasn't suddenly pounding. "Maybe I just like perfecting my form," I said, forcing a laugh. Ben raised an eyebrow. Just one. He had that look, the one that made you feel like you were being sized up, not physically, but mentally, like he saw straight through whatever excuse you were hiding behind. "Sure," he said. "Or maybe you're here for something else." That was the moment I knew. My trainer had noticed I wasn't coming to the gym just to work out. "My name's Alex. I'm 26, live alone, work a boring but stable job in IT, and I started going to the gym after a breakup that left me feeling smaller than I wanted to admit. At first, it really was about getting stronger, feeling desirable again, feeling like I hadn't wasted my early 20s hiding parts of myself. Then, Ben started training me. He wasn't the loud, hyper-masculine drill sergeant type. No yelling, no bro talk. Ben was calm, focused, confident in a way that didn't need to prove itself. Early 30s, athletic but not cartoonishly ripped. Dark hair, always slightly messy like he'd run his hands through it one too many times. He smelled faintly like clean laundry and coffee. I noticed that way earlier than I should have. At first, I told myself it was harmless. He was just my trainer, a straight guy doing his job. I was just another client. But then came the little things. The way his hands stayed on my hips a second longer than necessary when adjusting my stance. The way he'd stand close behind me during deadlifts, his voice low near my ear. The way he remembered details I hadn't realized I'd shared. My job stress, my sleep schedule, the fact that I always came in after work, even when I was exhausted. And yeah, the way I started scheduling sessions at times, I knew he was working. So when he said that line, "Maybe you're here for something else," it felt like being caught staring. I shrugged, grabbed my water bottle, avoided his eyes. "You psychoanalyzing me now, coach?" Ben smiled, but it wasn't teasing. It was curious. "Comes with the job," he said. "People don't just train their bodies. They bring everything else in with them." I nodded like that made sense, but inside, I was spiraling. Did he know? Did he suspect? Or was I just projecting because I'd been thinking about him way too much? The rest of the session passed in a blur. I followed instructions, counted reps, wiped sweat from my forehead, hyper aware of every movement. Every time Ben looked at me, it felt loaded. Like there was something unspoken hovering between us, heavy but not uncomfortable, just present. As we wrapped up, I started packing my bag, already planning my escape before I said something stupid. "Hey, Alex," Ben said. I looked up. "You don't have to answer this," he added, lowering his voice. "But are you actually happy with your training right now?" That question landed differently. I hesitated. Then, without really meaning to, I told the truth. "I think I like being here more than I like the results." Ben studied me for a long moment. No judgment, no surprise. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I figured." I swallowed. "Is that a problem?" He shook his head slowly. "Not necessarily. But if you're coming here for reasons you're not admitting, to yourself or anyone else, it might be worth talking about." My chest felt tight. Talking. How? Ben smiled again, softer this time. "Maybe not here. The gym's not great for honest conversations." I didn't know what that meant. But when I left that night, my body sore and my mind racing, I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. My trainer hadn't pushed me away. He'd opened a door, and I had no idea what was on the other side. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed Ben's voice in my head. The gym's not great for honest conversations. The way he'd said it, calm, deliberate, like he already knew I'd read between the lines. I told myself not to overthink it. Trainers say stuff like that all the time, right? It could have meant posture, motivation, goals, anything normal. Anything safe. Still, the next day, I caught myself checking the gym schedule more than once. Ben didn't text me, he didn't follow me on Instagram, he didn't cross any obvious line. And somehow, that made it worse. It meant whatever had happened hadn't been a slip. It had been intentional. 2 days later, I went back in. I almost canceled. My finger hovered over the app longer than I care to admit. But habit won. Or maybe curiosity. Or maybe the fact that I wanted to see if the tension was still there. Or if I had imagined all of it. Ben was already on the floor when I arrived, spotting another client. He glanced over, saw me, and gave a small nod. Nothing special. No smile. No signal. For a moment, I felt stupid. Embarrassed. Like I'd built this whole thing up in my head. But then my session started. "Warm up first," he said, walking over. "You look tense," I snorted. "That obvious?" "To me? Yeah." He handed me a resistance band, our fingers brushing just barely. It wasn't an accident. I knew that much now. We went through the motions, but something had shifted. Ben wasn't hovering the way he usually did. He gave instructions. Step back. Let silence stretch between us. It was controlled. Intentional. Like he was giving me space to decide something. Finally, during a water break, I broke. "So," I said, staring at the floor, "about what you said last time." Ben leaned against the wall beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat from his arm. "Yeah? You said I might be coming here for reasons I'm not admitting." I swallowed. "Was that just trainer talk?" He didn't answer right away. When I looked up, he was watching me carefully, like he didn't want to scare me off. "No," he said. "It wasn't." My pulse jumped. "Okay," I said too quickly. "Then what was it?" Ben exhaled slowly. "I've been doing this a long time, Alex. You can tell when someone's chasing progress, and when they're chasing something else. Connection. Validation. Sometimes just being seen. That hit way too close." "And?" I asked, and he continued. "You don't look at the gym like it's a chore. You look at it like it's relief." I laughed under my breath. "You make it sound deep." "It is," he said softly. The silence stretched again, heavier this time. Then Ben straightened. "Look, I'm not crossing lines here. I need that to be clear." He paused. "But I also don't like pretending I don't notice things." I nodded. My chest felt tight. "So what happens now?" "That depends," he said, meeting my eyes. "On what you actually want." I wanted to say you. I wanted to say this. Instead, I said, "I don't know yet." Ben smiled, genuine this time. "That's okay. You don't have to." The rest of the session was quieter, but not awkward. If anything, it felt more honest, like we'd named something without defining it. As I was leaving, Ben grabbed his keys from the counter. "Hey," he said, "I'm grabbing coffee after my last session tonight. If you want to talk, really talk, you're welcome to join. No pressure, no expectation, just an option." I stood there for a second, gym bag on my shoulder, heart racing in a way no workout had ever managed. "Yeah," I said finally. "I think I'd like that." Ben nodded. "Cool. See you later, Alex." And for the first time since I'd started training with him, I walked out of the gym knowing one thing for sure. Whatever I was coming back for, it wasn't just the workout anymore. I almost didn't go. I finished my workout, went home, showered, changed, then changed again. I stood in front of my mirror longer than necessary, towel still around my neck, trying to convince myself this was just coffee. Just two adults talking. Nothing loaded about it. That lie didn't stick. When I got back to the gym cafe later that evening, the place was quieter. Most of the after-work crowd had cleared out, replaced by a low hum of conversation and the steady hiss of the espresso machine. Ben was already there. He wasn't in trainer mode anymore. No branded shirt, no clipboard. Just a fitted black tee, jeans, sleeves pushed up slightly. Casual. effortless. Somehow that made him more intimidating. He looked up when I walked in and smiled, not the polite trainer smile. The real one. "You came," he said. "Yeah," I replied, suddenly aware of my hands. "I almost didn't." I figured. He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit." I did. We ordered coffee. Normal small talk followed. Work, weather, how crowded the gym had been earlier. It felt oddly grounding, like we were easing into something neither of us wanted to rush. After a few minutes, Ben leaned back slightly. "So," he said. "Honest conversation. You ready?" My stomach flipped. "Guess so," he nodded. "I'm gonna ask you something, and you can shut it down anytime." Fair. Fair. "What do you feel when you're at the gym?" he asked. "Not physically. I mean, emotionally." I stared into my cup, watching the steam curl upward. "I feel calmer," I said slowly. "Like my head finally shuts up. Like I'm allowed to take up space." Ben's expression softened. "Yeah, that tracks. And," I added, my voice quieter now, "I feel noticed." There it was. The thing I'd been avoiding naming. Ben didn't react the way I expected. No awkwardness. No pulling back. Just a slow nod. "By me," he said. I looked up. "Yeah." A beat passed. Then another. "Okay," Ben said gently. "Thank you for saying that." My heart was pounding now. "You don't seem surprised." "I'm not," he admitted. "And before you spiral, no, I didn't encourage it on purpose. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something too." That sent a shock straight through me. "You did?" Ben exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, which is why I wanted to talk outside the gym. Lines matter. Power dynamics matter. I won't mess that up." I nodded, even though part of me hated how reasonable he was being. "But," he continued, meeting my eyes again, "I also don't believe in pretending chemistry doesn't exist." The word chemistry echoed in my head. "So what does that mean?" I asked. "It means," Ben said, "if this is just a crush, it'll fade. If it's something deeper, we handle it like adults. No secrets, no games." "In the training?" I asked. "If you want to keep training with me," he said carefully, "we keep it professional. If you want space, I'll help you switch trainers. Either way, no pressure." That did something to me. The respect, the control, the fact that he was giving me choices instead of taking them away. I smiled, a little shaky. "You're really good at this," Ben laughed quietly. "Years of practice. And a lot of mistakes." We sat there for a moment, the air between us warm but steady. Not rushed, not explosive, just honest. When we stood to leave, there was no hug. No lingering touch. Just a look, longer than necessary, heavy with meaning. "I'm glad you came," Ben said. "Me too," I replied. As I walked out into the cool night air, my phone buzzed. A text from Ben. "Whatever this turns into, we'll do it right." I stared at the screen, smiling to myself. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't chasing the feeling of being seen. I already was, and something told me this was only the beginning. After that night, things didn't explode the way movies make you expect them to. They settled, which somehow was more intense. If anything, he was more careful than before. He kept a respectful distance, explained exercises clearly, corrected my form with words instead of hands, unless it was absolutely necessary. Anyone watching us would have seen nothing unusual, but I noticed everything else. The way his eyes checked in with me before pushing a heavier set. The quiet, "You good?" when I looked distracted. The small nod of approval when I pushed through a tough representative. It felt like we were speaking a language only the two of us knew. Outside the gym, though, that's where things shifted. We started with coffee, then another, then casual texts that turned into longer conversations. Nothing flirty at first, just honest. Late-night messages about work stress, past relationships, the weird pressure of expectations neither of us had signed up for. Ben surprised me there. He wasn't guarded the way I'd expected someone like him to be. He talked about burning out in his 20s, about how being the strong one made people forget you also get tired, about how he'd learned the hard way not to blur lines unless he was ready to deal with the consequences. "I don't want to be someone's fantasy," he texted one night. "I want to be someone's reality." That stuck with me. A week later, after a brutal leg day, we ended up sitting in his car in the gym parking lot. Neither of us had suggested it out loud. We just hadn't left yet. The windows were fogged slightly from the cold outside. The radio was on low, some song I didn't recognize. "You've been quieter lately," Ben said. "Good quiet or bad quiet?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Good, but thoughtful." I hesitated. "I'm trying not to screw this up." Ben turned toward me fully now. "Alex, you're not a screw-it-up kind of guy." That's generous. It's accurate. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was charged. The kind that makes you hyper-aware of breathing, of proximity, of the fact that you're both choosing not to move. "I should say this clearly," Ben said. Voice steady but lower now. "I'm attracted to you." My heart jumped. "Okay." "And I'm interested," he continued, "but only if we keep doing this the way we are, slowly, with intention." I nodded. "I want that too." Another pause. He didn't touch me, didn't lean in, just held my gaze, eyes dark and searching. "Good," he said, "because once we cross that line, I don't do halfway." That did things to me no amount of lifting ever had. When I finally got out of the car, my legs felt weak, not from squats, but from restraint. That night, lying in bed, I realized something important. I wasn't coming to the gym just to be seen anymore. I wasn't chasing validation or distraction. I was building something, carefully, intentionally. And whatever this thing with Ben was becoming, it wasn't about stolen glances or quiet tension anymore. It was about trust. And I had a feeling the hardest part was still ahead. The hardest part turned out not to be temptation. It was patience. Weeks passed, and somehow things kept intensifying without anything happening. No kiss. No touching beyond the occasional, unavoidable brush of hands when we passed each other a towel or a water bottle. If I hadn't known better, I might have thought I was imagining the tension. But I wasn't. It lived in the pauses, in the way Ben's voice dropped when he spoke to me after hours, in the way my name sounded different when he said it, slower, heavier, in the way I caught him watching me sometimes when he thought I was focused on my form. One evening, after a late session, Ben asked, "Walk with me?" We left the gym together, side by side, the city already dark and buzzing outside. The sidewalk lights cast long shadows, stretching ahead of us like we were heading somewhere important. "I've been thinking," he said. That sentence alone made my stomach flip. "About what?" I asked. "About timing," Ben replied, "and honesty." I glanced at him. "That sounds serious." "It is." He slowed his pace slightly, forcing me to match him. "I don't want this to stay in limbo forever." "That's not fair to either of us." My chest tightened. "Okay. I'm not your trainer forever," he continued. "Clients move on, goals change. And when that happens, the dynamic changes too." I knew where he was going, and my pulse spiked. "So," he said, stopping under a streetlight and turning to face me, "I need to know something." I swallowed. "Yeah? Are you interested in me?" Ben said carefully. "Or are you interested in what I represent right now?" The question hit hard. Harder than anything he'd asked before. I took a breath. "I've thought about that," I admitted. "A lot. And I don't feel like I'm chasing you because you're my trainer. I'm interested because you're you. The way you listen, the way you show up, the way you don't rush things." Ben searched my face, like he was checking for cracks in my answer. After a moment, he nodded. "Good." "Good?" I echoed, "because I feel the same," he said. "And I don't want to look back later and wonder if we held back too much." The air between us felt electric now. "I'm ending our training cycle next week," Ben said. "Professionally, I'll help transition you to another coach." My heart skipped. "Because of this?" "Because of us," he corrected. "I don't want a power imbalance hanging over whatever we might become." That was it. That was the moment I knew I was in deeper than I'd planned. I stepped closer without thinking. Not touching, just close enough that I could feel his breath. "And after?" I asked quietly. Ben's eyes dropped to my lips for just a second before meeting my gaze again. "After we go on a real date." My pulse roared in my ears. "Ben," I said, voice barely steady, "you're killing me." He smiled, slow and genuine. "Yeah," he said. "I know." We stood there a moment longer, suspended in something fragile and charged and incredibly real. Still no kiss. But when we finally turned and walked our separate ways, my whole body felt lit up, like it was bracing for impact. Because the line we'd been circling, we weren't just approaching it anymore. We'd agreed to cross it, together. The last session with Ben felt heavier than any workout we'd ever done together. Not sad, just loaded. We went through the motions like always. Warm up, main lifts, cool down. But there was a finality to it this time. Like both of us were acutely aware that this version of us was ending. "Your form's solid," Ben said as I finished my last set. "You don't actually need me anymore." I smiled, wiping sweat from my neck. "That's a weirdly emotional compliment," he chuckled. "Didn't mean it that way. But yeah, I'm proud of you." Those words hit harder than I expected. When the session ended, we stood near the lockers for a moment, neither of us in a rush. This was the line. The clean break he'd insisted on. And I respected him for it, even if part of me hated letting go of the excuse to see him regularly. So I said, slinging my bag over my shoulder, "Friday?" Ben nodded. "Friday. I'll pick you up." A real date. No gym. No roles. That night, I couldn't focus on anything. I replayed everything. How this had started, how slowly it had unfolded, how different it felt from every rushed, messy thing I'd done before. Friday came faster than I expected. Ben showed up right on time. Clean jacket, relaxed confidence, that same calm energy, but without the professional edge. When I opened the door, he looked at me for a second longer than necessary. "You look good," he said. "So do you," I replied, trying not to sound nervous. Dinner was easy. Too easy. Conversation flowed the way it had in texts, only warmer now, punctuated by laughter and long looks that lingered. We talked about music, travel, past relationships, what worked, what didn't, what we wanted now. At some point, I realized I wasn't holding back anymore. Neither was he. When he walked me back to my place, the night was quiet, the city softened by distance and low light. We stopped outside my building. "Well," Ben said, hands in his pockets, "this is usually the awkward part." I smiled. "Yeah, it is." We stood there, close but not touching, the same tension that had been building for weeks now, sharp and undeniable. I meant what I said. Ben added quietly, "I don't do halfway." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm here." He searched my face one last time, checking, confirming, making sure. Then he leaned in. The kiss was slow, careful, nothing rushed or desperate about it. Just lips meeting, testing, like we were both making sure this was real. It was. When we pulled back, my heart was pounding. Ben rested his forehead lightly against mine. "Yeah," he murmured. "That feels right." I laughed softly. "You always say things like you've already processed them." He smiled. "Experience." We didn't go any further that night. We didn't need to, because standing there, wrapped in the quiet after something finally begun, I realized something that made me smile all the way upstairs. I hadn't gone to the gym looking for love, but somehow, by showing up consistently, honestly, and without pretending to be someone else, I'd found it anyway. Things changed after that kiss, not in a dramatic, everything is different way, but in the quiet moments, the ones that sneak up on you. The way Ben's text felt warmer now, less careful. The way I caught myself smiling at my phone like an idiot during meetings. The way anticipation replaced tension. We didn't rush anything. That was the pattern with us. One step, then another, always checking in without making it feel like a negotiation. Our second date was at his place. That alone felt like a milestone. Ben lived in a clean, understated apartment, plants by the window, weights tucked neatly into a corner, framed photos from hikes and trips he'd taken over the years. It felt lived in, grounded, very him. "Make yourself comfortable," he said, kicking off his shoes. "Wine? Please." We cooked together, bumping into each other in the small kitchen, laughing when I messed up the garlic, and when he teased me for overthinking it. It felt domestic, in the best way. After dinner, we ended up on the couch, legs brushing, shoulders touching. No rush, just closeness. At some point, Ben turned to me. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, this feels new. In a good way." He smiled softly. "It is, for me too." That surprised me. "Really?" "Yeah," he said. "I don't usually let things build like this. But with you, it felt worth waiting." That did something to my chest. I shifted closer, and this time, when I kissed him, it wasn't tentative. It was warm, confident, sure. His hand came up to my jaw, thumb brushing my cheek, grounding me. We took our time. Every touch felt intentional. Every pause felt like a choice, not hesitation. Later, lying side by side, the room dim and quiet, Ben traced lazy patterns on my arm. "You know," he said, "I've watched a lot of people come to the gym trying to fix something." I hummed. "Yeah, most of the time it's not their body that needs it." He glanced at me. "You didn't need fixing. You just needed space to grow." I smiled, turning toward him. "You helped with that." He shook his head. "You did the work." As I drifted toward sleep, head resting against his chest, it hit me just how far this had come. From stolen glances and careful conversations to this easy, real, steady. I used to think I kept going to the gym because it made me feel stronger. But now I understood something deeper. Strength wasn't just about lifting heavier. Sometimes it was about slowing down, letting yourself be seen, and trusting someone enough to meet you where you are. And with Ben, I wasn't just showing up anymore. I was staying. A few months later, I caught myself doing something familiar. I was standing in the gym, tying my shoes, scanning the room, out of habit. He still trained people, just different hours, different clients. Sometimes our paths crossed, sometimes they didn't. And when they did, it felt normal, easy, ours. That was the difference. I finished my workout and stepped outside, the cool air hitting my skin. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Ben. "Done yet?" I smiled. Me. "Just finished. Ben." Good. I made dinner. That still got me, the casual certainty of it. No guessing, no wondering where I stood. When I got to his place, he was barefoot in the kitchen, music playing softly, sleeves rolled up like always. He looked up when I came in, that familiar smile settling into place. "There he is," he said. I walked over, kissed him without thinking twice. It felt natural now. Earned over dinner, we talked about stupid things. Work drama, a show we were halfway through, whether we should finally take that weekend trip we kept half planning. Nothing monumental, everything meaningful. Later, curled up together on the couch, I rested my head against his shoulder and let the quiet stretch. "You ever think about how this started?" I asked. Ben hummed. "At the gym?" "At the gym," I said, smiling. I was so sure I was just there to get stronger. He tilted his head, pressing a kiss to my hair. "You did." "Yeah," I said, just not the way I expected. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I noticed you before you ever noticed me." I looked up. "Seriously?" "Yeah," he admitted. "You showed up, even on bad days, even when you didn't feel confident. That kind of consistency says a lot about a person." I thought about that on the drive home later, about how this hadn't been a lightning strike or some reckless decision. It had been built, representative by rep, conversation by conversation, choice by choice. I didn't fall for my trainer. I fell for the man who saw me trying, who respected my pace, who never made me feel like I had to earn affection by being someone else. And the funny thing, I still go to the gym. I still train hard. I still chase progress, just not because I'm missing something anymore. Now I'm building from a place of strength, And every night when I come home sore and tired and whole, I know exactly why I keep showing up. Because sometimes you walk into a place to work on your body,